What's going on, guys? It is MurderInc here, back with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today we're going to be talking about a very important topic. How can you survive in Raid Shadow Legends? Now, you would think it's pretty self-explanatory, and the way the game has everything laid out, it's not as easy as it appears. I'm going to give you the information today, so by the time you're done watching this video here, you know everything you need to, and you're going to do a lot better in this game, especially with survivability. So, what are we going to be talking about in specific? We're going to be talking about health and defense, which one's more important, where does one fall off, where does the other kind of pick up, and all of the important thresholds that you need to know while playing this game. Now, one thing that I can say is players really have a hard time with this because of the way the game kind of sets things up. You're kind of set up with the base stats of all the champions to kind of value defense a lot higher in the early game, and then to just keep going with that all the way through the end game. I mean, think about it. You have health and then defense. Defense, defend, I want to defend myself. That's one kind of thing that it may sound silly, but players actually do use that in their mind when they are looking for making survivability stats and defensive stats. Once again, just use the word defensive already, which has to do with one stat instead of the other, which is health. With that being said, there is actually a severe fall off point for defense that a lot of players don't know about. So they are going above and beyond stacking defense, wasting I'm not sure how much gear, how many stats, they're dying early, and they're really hurting themselves in the long run. So what we're going to do is, first, huge shout out to our boy HG Senti, another amazing graph that he gave me today. It's going to cover everything from arena all the way to clan boss, and with that being said, we are going to start off with the clan boss. Now, the clan boss is arguably the most popular part of this game based on how amazing the rewards are, how accessible it is to all players, especially as you progress through the game with certain things like unkillable compositions. It's really easy to get into the clan boss if you're lucky enough to pull select champions. For those people who aren't lucky enough to do this, this part of the video will definitely apply much more to you, as you don't have the option of applying that unkillable buff. And I know this is something that a lot of people talk about. I'm not personally a huge fan of unkillable. I do really enjoy the defense team surviving as long as you can, really putting a lot more thought into the builds instead of just speed tuning, hitting auto, and watching the team go until turn 50. But with that being said, I'm going to show you this graph here, minimum HP before you should build defense. Now, don't get too kind of put off by all of these different numbers, all of the lines. We do have this awesome rainbow going on here. This is all going to be for different content. I'm going to go over that so you're not confused, so just bear with me. So for the first part, as we said, we are going to be talking about the clan boss here. This is going to apply to only the blue line as well as the purple line, both of them on the bottom here. So the purple line is assuming you will have a 60% defense up at all times. And secondly, the blue line, which doesn't apply any auras, so on and so forth, assuming that you have defense up, which most people will have. Now, you can say defense up is going to be a 2-turn duration and a 3-turn cooldown. How does this kind of go into play here? Now, this is going to mostly help you out for the 2 AoEs. On the clan boss is essentially an enemy max health ability skill, kind of like something like a Royal Guard, Cold Heart, or Septimus, even Husk, someone like those champions, and finally Seer that I forgot about. How can you forget about the most OP champion in the game? So those 4 champions are enemy max health abilities. The same thing is with the clan boss on his stun ability. So we're kind of going to push that aside for now, only talk about the AoEs. So this line here represents you having a defense up all of the time. So if you have 3,000 defense, the optimal health you should have before considering building any more defense is going to be about 35,000 health. So if you have 3,000 defense, including that defense up buff, and you don't have at least 35,000 health, get it. Just simply get it. This is a graph here. All of the numbers were laid out in front of us, so we don't have to think about anything at all. Now, as you can see here, the value of defense compared to health significantly skyrockets at 4,000, only looking at the blue and purple once again. So once we get to 4,000, the value of health is completely soaring here, saying you really want to focus on health to maximize the amount of survivability you have over going any further in defense. Because honestly, once you get to like 4,600 defense, you're going to need 75,000 health, and none of you are building 75,000 health. Let's be honest with each other here. The most common amount of health people will have on the high end is about 50,000 health, so keep these things in mind when building defense on a champion and really neglecting the health. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people building 5,000 defense, 35,000 health, and I'm thinking to myself, I get it, maybe it's a defense-based champion, they do scale off of defense to increase their damage, but you are ruining your survivability so much by following those metrics of the amount of stats that you are giving your champions. After hearing this alone, you should probably start prioritizing things like HP necklaces, HP rings, so on and so forth to really maximize your survivability here. Now, one huge disclaimer, as you probably have figured out already by what I just said, this has nothing to do with champions that deal damage based on defense or deal damage based on HP. All of that is pushed aside. That is considered an added bonus. We are simply talking about survivability here, the numbers you should be aiming for as far as survivability goes. So now that we've covered defense up, and to credit one more time, we do have Iron Brago who can keep up defense up on all of your champions on a 3-turn duration for a 3-turn cooldown. So it's 100% uptime, which is really strong. He would directly apply to this purple line all the way through from the AoEs to the stun. Moving on to something like the blue line here, this is more common for something like a speed team where yes, sometimes you can hit that purple line threshold, but sometimes your team is going to outspeed the defense up buff, or you're simply not going to have a buff. This means you want to put a lot more emphasis in something like health. Now the same thing is in fact going to apply to something like stalwart gear. I've gone over this before, some of you may know, some may not know. When wearing stalwart, you always want to put heavy emphasis in health no matter what, because what it basically does give you a 4-piece bonus that's pretty much stronger than defense, the amount you could stack with any 4-piece bonus possible in this game, which is why a lot of people run 2,500 defense to 3,000 defense in stalwart with a lot of health in something like the Ultra Nightmare, which is very, very low defense, as you can probably imagine, compared to what you know about this game. So really quickly looking at this blue line here, let's say you have 3,000 defense on your team. You really want to be looking at, as we can see here, over 50,000 health for maximum potential on your survivability. Now, if this isn't shocking you right away, it probably should be, because once again, I can tell you so many people who don't even come close to these numbers, and they're at 4,000 defense, so on and so forth. So hopefully this is kind of an eye-opener for you guys to see that based on having no defense up buff or a defense up buff, kind of where you should be, and maybe this will help you guys improve your clan boss damage significantly based on the information that I am showing you here today. Now, where we get into the green line, the yellow line, and the red line, this is going to be more along the lines of arena and things like that. So what this is going to do is the green line is going to assume you have a 30% defense down buff, or the attacker has savage and cruel. The yellow line is going to be you have a 60% defense down buff alone, and the red line finally is going to be you have a 60% defense down, and the attacker has savage plus cruel on them. As we can see here, if you're fighting a team like this, it's really hard to survive. I mean, unless you have swift parry that literally kills you but brings you back with the swift parry, proccing the unkillable on yourselves, there's just no way to survive. As we can see here, building any type of defense on your champion is literally irrelevant if you have a 60% defense down and the attacker has savage and cruel gear. We're looking at 200 base defense. Think about that. All champions start with significantly more than 200 defense, but let's just say you had a champion with 200 defense. You would need 100,000 health just to survive. You would need that much health. So if you are fighting in the arena, you really want to improve your survivability to the best of your ability. Focus on health. If you're fighting lots of teams that you know are going to be running savage gear, if you have a defense that you're building that's really expose the teams that run savage and cruel gear. Definitely keep this in mind. Stack as much health as you can. Maybe look at something like stalwart gear and forget about defense altogether. It's going to ignore so much defense that even if you can hit numbers like 6,000, 7,000, your health is going to be so low that they have to do basically no damage to one-shot you very, very easily. So now with this being said, one thing this chart doesn't show you is what happens if you add something like a strengthen buff on top of this, something that reduces damage in an aura or a passive like Norog has, as well as Duchess. So these things can also significantly increase what you can do in pretty much all content from clan boss dungeons all the way to the arena. So these are things that definitely reduce the amount of health you actually need, but once again, cannot stress this enough. Health is going to be one of the greatest defensive stats for you overall in this game based on how easy it is to hit the thresholds for defense. Yes, you can say some champions have really low defensive thresholds of 700 base defense all the way up to something like 800 base defense, 900, so stacking defense is going to be very difficult. But as we can see here, once you hit 3,000 defense, you really want to focus on something like HP. And the fact that people are kind of ignoring that, saying I'm going to go full on to defense, they are hitting the numbers even though it is very difficult with 4,000 defense, but they're sitting at 30,000 health, which is really, really hurting them. If you look at any scenario here, you want at least 40,000 health with the defense up buff, if not more than that, to be relevant, to really balance things out in all content. So that is this information here about HP and defense. Like I said before, if you are just starting out, campaign farmer, what are you going to stack when you're trying to survive? HP. It's much easier to get. It stacks much better than defense does, especially in the lower levels, so focus on HP. You can use defense gloves if you want. I'm not going to say defense is going to be a bad stat. It's just much easier for survivability reasons to stack HP, focus a little bit on defense, and get through your content much quicker than you would imagine. Alright guys, give me your feedback. Let me know what you think about this video. Have you really been underestimating the value of HP? I know I was to an extent, not to a very extreme extent, but I was definitely undervaluing HP prior to seeing a document like this. So give me your feedback. Let me know about your success. If you find some success while changing your gear around to more HP, come back, give me a comment in the video, say this is what I was doing, this is what I am doing now, just to show me a quick comparison. I'd make all of these videos to make sure you guys have the highest chance of success and the quickest account progression possible. So it means a lot when you guys show me your feedback and I can kind of read and see you guys getting better each and every day. As always guys, if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to smash that like button, leave a comment below, turn on the notification bell after you subscribe, and I will see you all in my next upload.